One is the assumption that big businesses are cool and small businesses are not is fundamentally wrong. Big businesses they may have big marketing budgets or the big budgets, but they also have the capacity to waste money, but just on a larger scale than the smaller businesses. So the scale doesn't really make any difference. I think it's easy when small businesses think about recruitment to talk ourselves into a negative mindset. There's a lot of conversation that flies around about the war on talent, about skills gaps, about how difficult recruitment is. And you almost create a self-fulfilling proposition the more you talk along those lines. And yet the reality is there are a lot of small businesses that have highly engaged teams that are very motivated, that are amazing at what they do, no problem. So there's something that's going on here which is not about size, not about anything else. It is actually all about realism in terms of the role that you've got and what you're looking for. And quite often when you are in a small business, when you have a vacancy, this is a real problem because it's a small team. If you're 5 people and one person leaves, then there's a rather large hole. If you're 50 people and one person leaves, it's not such a problem. So therefore there becomes an urgency to recruit. Not only that, but you want to recruit someone who absolutely fills the gap that's been left by the person that's just left. Whereas actually, the chances of you finding someone actually fits that role, it's about as close as finding a unicorn. And if you roll it back and think, actually, what was the person like that we recruited into that role in the first place? That's grown up into that position. So taking your expectations back and saying, actually, we need to find someone that will grow into that space rather than fill it, is a fundamental shift in mindset. Secondly, a lot of job specifications are what I call the impossible job description. Because when you read it, you look at all of these responsibilities, I've seen descriptions with 10, 15, 20 responsibilities. And when you read it and look at it, you realize that this is an completely impossible job. There is no one on earth who can fulfill all these things to the desired standard. And therefore you are, A, putting off people who might apply because they look at this and say, this is just impossible. Therefore, why would I bother applying for this? And you're also not setting your own expectations into the right place. So I prefer to look at these roles and say, there's only 2 things I want to understand. What's the purpose of the role and what's the impact? So for every role in the business, it needs to have a purpose statement and an impact statement. The purpose is, this is why the role exists. The impact is, how does it move the business forward? Which dial in the business does this particular role change? And then you've got a clear understanding of how that role fits together. And as I said, do you think back to when you started, when every one of us started in our careers, there has been a point at which we had a break. Someone somewhere saw something in us and said, this person has got capability beyond their current experience. And we were fortunate in finding people that took that risk, that invested in us, that allowed us to develop and grow into the role to become the people that we are today. At no point, I would imagine, has any one of us stepped into a role where we were fully equipped, fully qualified, and all ready to go. We all stepped into roles that were a stretch, and someone somewhere saw something and took the chance on that. So the crux of it really, I think, is to be honest on what it is that you are looking for, and to understand that the landscape is not the same as the person that's just left. And beyond that, treat people as people. Small businesses are amazingly exciting places to work. They provide people with scope and opportunities to develop their roles. And the beauty of a small business is the decision-making chain is really short. If you've got a great idea, you haven't got many doors to knock on to get it approved. Whereas step into the corporate world, it could take you 12 months, a year, 2 years, or never to get your idea through any kind of process to get attention. and someone else would have probably stolen it along the way if it was a good one.